All right, can you hear now? Yep, you hear? Okay, great. All right, cool then. So then we should be good to go. All right, cool. Then, all right, great. All right. So now I have to say here, over.
What is
The stretch is like you can look. That's the stretch. Really cannot, right? Yes. No. Hey, I'm gonna say I'm really laid back. I'm not take that too serious, but I try to get stuff done though, you know. Don't make me blush. Oh, no problem. It needs to sit around so it don't. So it can sit like here on the chest, do whatever it needs to. This is what they're gonna be. So I'm gonna give y'all this is the shot. Zoom out. This is the current.
Let's shift a little bit that way, and then the candidates can sit on these two tables with the mic on the I mean with the laptop on that stool, and then Ty, you and I can sit here, and then just shift a little bit this way because this wall is it. This wall is blocking the outlet. You want to fight for it? You know, we lost the better, you know that. No, there's no job where I work. I know. Oh. Yeah, she's kind of hard. Yeah. What are we trying to do here? This is for the check candidates. These are for the so we're going to position this. Oh, I see. This is the actual microphone. Sorry. That's all we got. So we put this here. And this wall is the video. That's perfect.
Yeah. That look good to me.
I'm like, how are they gonna get in? I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, how are they gonna get in?
Yeah, I can. Huh? I just did. You see it? What do you see now on this trailer? Let me see. Still a black screen? Yeah. Do you see me? Like a white wall? Gotcha. So then that means the laptop is picking up the video, not the iPad. Hmm. But on my hmm?
You can't always be the same leader to that person in every stage of the school year. I use my servant leadership to create culture and buy-in. Is that both parts? I would use my background in servant leadership and situational leadership to create culture and buy-in by, first of all, building authentic relationships with my teachers, with my parents, the community partners, and most importantly, my students. I am on a mission to learn everyone's name. I make it my priority to go upstairs and greet every teacher in the morning, do walkthroughs and be visible, and let them know that You're not working for me. We both work for the student. The student is our client. They are the ones that we need to make happy because we work in a field where we are saturated with people, but we are also tasked with producing the best people. And that is how I will create buy-in, understanding and getting to know what is important to my teachers, to my team, what things are working extremely well, what things can we improve, and what things can we absolutely eliminate. And I want them to know that I'm not blessed in every realm, but my gifts and talents that I can share and that I can lend a hand to, you definitely will always have my support.
The next question, we started with the student, and we're going to ask the both of you to take your voices.
Will do.
Everybody. The second question, how would you address the various social, emotional, and academic needs of students following the pandemic?
Okay, so I was talking about this a little bit earlier, talking about how the pandemic has really impacted our students in significant ways and has really, unfortunately, shed the light on the inequities that our communities face. Even though this is a community that has a hospital, that has this beautiful school, this beautiful campus, inequities still creep up and try to prevent our students from being their greatest selves. For social emotional needs, I think that the first thing is really tapping into the restorative practice, being able to not have punitive discipline procedures in classrooms. So really tap into what is going on with the student emotionally, partnering with different community-based organizations. I know that there is a church, Living Hope Church, I believe, that offers different programs that could be a benefit to our students and to our school, if that is not already in place. But those are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Again, along with the restorative piece. So really honing into training our educators and our teachers on the school to prison pipeline is real, right? And so being mindful of the different strategies that we use to manage behavior and address behavior and understand that there is a root to why our students are behaving the way that they are behaving. They have things going on at home. This is a low-income community, a predominantly low-income community. And so coming into that and knowing all of those things definitely will impact decisions that I feel will be made. Not even to mention the new library that's going to be built, right? And so all of these things are still impacting our communities and really shedding light on what our students will need.
How will you address the various socio-emotional and academic needs following the pandemic?
I believe it's important to first and foremost start in-house and examine what programs, what procedures, what trauma-informed care plans already exist within our network, and evaluate heavily, are they working? Are they beneficial? Have they been heavily utilized? Have we tapped into those things in the proper way? And do they truly serve our students, and dare I say our teachers, in the best way possible post-pandemic, or I'm sorry, still during a pandemic? I also think that it's important to not lump social, emotional, and academic needs post-pandemic in all one box. They are isolated, they are struggles all on their own, and trying to address all of the needs at one time, I believe would be unsuccessful, depending on the challenges that the scholar has. I think it's important that we surround ourselves with experts and we do the research about what best practices exist, what partnerships and community organizations and non-for-profit organizations exist, and really evaluate, are these things that we need to bring in? Are these permanent figures that we need to hire in our building? Or are these just connections that we need to make for the family and the parent or for the teacher? Last but not least, when it comes to addressing academic needs post-pandemic, I was talking to Mr. Gordon and Ms. Childress about this. You know, the pandemic changed everything. But if you think about the academic expectations that are still in place and the criteria of academic success that is still going to exist when our scholars start to apply for college, the pandemic changed everything, but it also changed absolutely nothing. when it comes to the type of credentials and the qualifications that your scholar will still need to possess. So it is my job to make sure that I have high expectations, but I am also educating the total person while still making them understand that academically you do have a responsibility. I am going to help you, but I'm also going to educate you. Thank you.
So the next question will start with you, Ms. Martin.
Absolutely.
We touched on this a little bit, but please elaborate a little bit more. The role that you think the director plays in fostering the talent of teachers and students.
The director plays a pivotal role in fostering the talents, and you said gifts and gifts of, you said students or teachers? Teachers and students. I will start with teachers because our teachers are, for lack of a better phrase, on the front line. They are our warriors in the classroom, right? And so much research has been done about the importance of high quality, high expectations held by the teacher and the performance of students, whether or not they are academically successful. It is my job as a director to set the tone, to understand that I set the expectations, but also I have to inspect what I expect. And that means that I prepare my leadership team, I prepare my teachers, and being upfront with them about rigor. Our school, we have a great school, but there's nothing in this school that we are doing that we cannot absolutely do better. And that's going to take a lot of hard work. I believe that rapid teacher development is one of my superpowers. I've worked so many years with first-year teachers, seasoned teachers, because I believe everyone can be coached and everyone can truly, truly be the best. But that comes with a high level of analysis, a high level of backwards planning, a high level of instructional practice. We don't live in a day and age where teachers can just stand in front of kids and just wing it. We have to make sure that high quality instruction is delivered every single day because our kids can't afford to wait for you to fix a skill next year. I abide by the term fix it now. If there is a deficit instructionally and it's also causing a deficit academically, it needs to be fixed within 48 hours. And it's intense, but it is so beneficial because our students deserve high quality education every moment of the day. With regards to academics and students, I want to create a culture of learning with urgency. And what that means, I want students to understand how important it is for you to tap into your education and you to truly be a scholar. I am going to hold teachers 100% accountable for delivering high quality instruction, but the responsibility to learn, to participate, to complete work with fidelity and of a high quality standard, that is on the student. So I want to make sure that the teacher has a job and they're going to do very well, but you have a job and you need to do well also.
What role do you think the director plays in fostering?
Yes, I think that, like I was just sitting here reflecting, I think that the director takes the most important role in fostering the talent of teachers and students. With my experience with working with the National Center for Urban Education, one thing that I learned is that it's super important to be intentional about the professional development and the types of leaders that you want to produce to come into these schools. Some of the professional development that I've been intentional about offering that a lot of teachers unfortunately don't get coming into our schools is around creating anti-racist classrooms. Being able to understand your power and your privilege, not only as an educator, but coming into spaces like ours. Also trauma-informed practices, right? Being able to address when students are dealing with trauma. And so my hope is that the role of the director is to create really well-rounded teachers that really are competent and culturally competent, that have resources and tools in their toolbox and someone that they can come to really support them in all areas, not just with the teaching and improving instruction, because that comes with it. But as far as students, I think that this, again, is the most important role. Middle school is such an important time It's one of the reasons why I went into education specifically to serve middle schools, is because it is one of the most times where our bodies are experiencing as much change as it experienced when we were like newborns. And so that piece really stuck with me and really stuck with me because it made me think about all the different needs, right? This is the age where bullying and self-identity comes out. And the role of the director is really to empower our students to really make sure that they understand that they are someone, they can be whoever they want to be. We are here to set high expectations, to make sure that we are fostering a place where students are receiving rigorous instruction, grade level instruction, that our teachers have our high expectations for our students and really inspire them to go to college. Just like Ms. Monson said, right, our high school, all of our students graduated, all of them got accepted into colleges. And I think that is the role of the director to make sure that all of our students reach that goal.
Next question will be directed first to Stuart. In what ways have you been teams in the use of data to drive instruction and improve student outcomes? And that's first.
All right. I know that U Chicago really drives into data and using research-based practices and strategies in the classroom. This year, I can talk about this year. I had the task of leading our 4th grade team. If any of you are familiar with CPS, we have a new assessment that we're using. We have a new assessment that we are using. And so with leading that team, one of the tasks that I've had was being able to improve our students that met or exceeded their learning targets by 8% by the end of the year. And so one of the things that I did was I went to some research-based practices to really understand what systems are already out there, what supports are already out there that we can implement into our classroom. One of the ones that I strongly believe in is small group instruction. While I do believe, and research shows that students should be receiving on grade level text, they should be receiving on level grade instruction, certain time should be built aside for small group instruction because that practice allows students to also receive instruction with where they are. It builds their confidence. We are able to see growth. And so we sat back, we took some data, some baseline data at the beginning of the year. I think that piece is important, really helping teachers analyze and understand what does this data mean? Let's separate the data even further to figure out which groups of students might need even more support. And then from there, make small groups, be able to provide teachers with the Fountas and Pinnell level literacy intervention kits, teaching them how to use those kits so that they can really hone in onto that literacy instruction for students. And so I think that data is the baseline, but I also think it does not tell us everything that we need to know. And so that's where I've been in on those relationships with parents and communities to be able to say, hey, this student, tested like this, but tell me a little bit more what's going on. So really encouraging teachers to, look beyond the data as well to get more information.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Please talk about how you use data to drive instruction and improve student outcomes.
Absolutely. So data keeps the doors open, right? This is a rallying cry that I tell to my teachers every single year, no matter what you teach. I don't care if you teach physics or finger painting. Data keeps the doors open. It is everyone's responsibility because if our school closes because our data is poor, the teacher who teaches finger painting does not get to stay with a job, right? So understanding that, I've used data in such a significant way. First and foremost, establishing an assessment calendar and having bi-weekly assessments. In my previous role, my most recent role, I was tasked with having data meetings, teacher-led data meetings with every teacher under my leadership and guidance. And even though those data meetings were happening bi-weekly for them, they were happening multiple times every week for me, And what that means is we do a intense level of backwards planning where we look at the assessment and we take the assessment, but also we identify the possible misconceptions that scholars will encounter as they learn the material throughout the week and as they take the assessment. If you teach math, I need you to work out all the math problems before you teach that lesson. If you're reading, I need you to fully read the text before you introduce it to the class, because we have to know what difficulties scholars are going to experience and where that falls in that standard. Now, when they get to the assessment, right, we should already be able to predict which questions they're going to struggle with if we're really teaching with intention. And when you get to my table for the data meeting, we should be right on par because we've done an intense level of elbow planning and having these really intense intellectually prepped conversations, right? But data is so significant because data is our x-ray. It's no different than when you go to the doctor and your leg is hurting and they say, I don't know what's wrong. Can you look at it? Can you tell me, please? So they x-ray, and that is what data is. We need to know academically, not only what our students know, but how well do they know it? To what degree do they know it? And how well can they show us what they know? And that is the difference between proficiency and growth, because you only use assessment data for two reasons: to determine if our scholars are proficient and if our scholars are growing. And if our goal is to reach a growth measure and a proficiency measure, how do we identify who our students are that are going to get us there and what type of instruction do they need every single day when they walk through our doors? And that is the data conversations that I have with my teachers. But it's not necessarily about what students do, it's about teachers. And I let every teacher know when I come into your classroom, I'm really not looking at you. I don't mean to be offended. I know you've worked really hard on this lesson, but I'm looking at how well the instruction you are delivering is moving kids towards mastery. And if it's not, what is the instructional gap? What is the academic achievement gap? And that is the diagnosis that we must make using data. We have to be data informed and not just data collectors.
If you will, provide examples of where you successfully engage
Parents and community partners. So in my current role, I know it's been difficult with the pandemic. Parents have had such limited access to being in the school, right? But we wanted to break that barrier. So what we did is we established something called Parent University. And once a month, we would have parents come in. It was welcome to all. We would feed them lunch. And we would issue a professional development geared towards parent. It could be about the importance of school attendance, what are students learning? It could be have a teacher come in and do a lesson, anything that we wanted to just share with our parents. And we would have really in-depth conversations about their needs, what services we can provide in the school, and how we can support them better and with full fidelity. After that professional development and that conversations, we took them on a walkthrough because parents want to be in classes and we want them in our classes, right? Because education should feel good. It should feel good to see your child learning new things. It should feel good when your child comes to you with a math problem that you absolutely cannot figure out, but they know the answer to. And we wanted parents to be able to get back to that. So we would take them on a walkthrough. We would take them into classrooms and they would observe and participate and have a really conversation piece when they got home with their children. So that is one way that I've engaged parents. There was also a component where we brought in community partners in those professional developments with our parents as well. And another way that we engage community partnerships is, in my current role, I was tasked with when every summer doing summer professional development for my teachers, I have to introduce them to the community partnerships that we have. And that looks very similar to having those people come into the building and tell us about the services they provide. Make sure teachers are aware that this is what's available within the community, because as an academic leader, I am going to be able to keep my hand on the pulse of a lot, but the teacher is going to be able to keep their hand on the pulse of a lot more. So it's important that I can make that connection between my teachers and the community partners. So if a student is truly in need of support, if they can't get me, they already know what community partners we are aligned with, and they can reach out to them directly. So that is a way that I bring in community partnerships as well.
Yes, thank you. So one of the ways that I've worked to bring in community partners into our schools with leading the new teacher mentor program, one of the monthly seminars that we provided for our teachers was actually called the North Lawndale 101. And so with that task, because our school was located in North Lawndale, I took it upon myself to make sure that I researched different community partners that were in the neighborhood that could come into our classroom. We had the North Lawndale Legal Christian Center come in. We also had some other organizations come in, and really we offered a panel. It was very similar to this style. Our teachers were invited, our new teachers and our veteran teachers were invited, and we were really able to hone in on the resources that were available in the community. There was even a connection. Our 8th grade teacher at the time was teaching Monster. And so he was able to make a connection with the North Lawndale Legal Christian Center to actually bring his lesson alive, right? Have possibly create opportunities for lawyers to come in and work with our students to really make their learning come alive. And so I think that aside from that piece, I think that parents having an opportunity to know about the different resources that are in their communities. So that's one way that I invite community partners, that I have invited community partners into our schools. As far as parents, I think that parents have awesome opportunities to participate in like the local school council or the advisory council and things like that. But one of the things that I've done before in the past is also make sure that we have a pool of parents that want to, again, be in our buildings. There is no such thing as having too many hands, right, in our classrooms. Sometimes it is, right, when we're trying to get stuff done, but when it comes to like management and students being able to see that, hey, I know this parent, and I think that all of those things really impact our students in a positive way. I also think that having, aside from volunteer groups, one of the things that we started to do this year was really think about having a carpool, a group of carpool parents, right? Sometimes when thinking about attendance, right, our students that may have hindered that transportation, being able to have parents that we can contact to say, hey, we need you to play this vital role in our school today. Hey, we need you to make sure that so-and-so makes it to school. And so I'm really a personable person. I like to think that the strategies that I implement with engaging parents and community is very much like, we need you. This work is not done without communities and parents. You are at the foundation. You know your scholars better than we ever will. And so I think that it is important to constantly invite you back and even create committees in our school where parents can be involved. It may not be our curriculum committee, but our attendance team that we have, having you come and sit at the table with us on those committees to help us create plans to improve student attendance, improve anything else that you feel are the needs for this school.
The next question will start with the student. One of our core values at Chicago Charter is cultivating culturally aware, critical thinkers and leaders. Under your leadership, what will this look like?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. One of our core values is cultivating culturally aware, critical thinkers and leaders. Under your leadership, what will this look like?
So I think that when thinking about the core values and thinking about creating students, or not even creating, adding to what the university has already set forth as far as creating opportunities to make sure that we are critically aware and that our students are critically aware, I think of, again, bringing it back to the instructional. Being able to tie our learning into real life experiences. One of the things that I really value in education is the service learning piece, right? Being able to make our learning come alive outside of our classroom, right? Because it's so easy to feel as though this lesson is for this moment, it doesn't really impact me, but really bringing it alive. Some of the things that we've done before in the past is, again, taking opportunities. I can speak for this year. We had a classroom during Black History Month where we really talked about different things that were happening in our communities. We talked about the Chicago Public Schools boycott that happened. And so that lesson was amazing because it allows students the opportunity to understand about the inequity. But then we really tied it into the redlining that happens in our city, being able to pull up a map to talk about how segregated our communities are. And so being able to tie that lesson into this really is impacting you. Yes, this happened 50 years ago, but what is still happening now? How are those inequities still impacting our school? We even went a little bit deeper to talk about the funding that our different school districts get, right? And so then even went even deeper to talk about the racial makeup of those groups. And so all of those things allowed our students to be critically aware. It allows them to really deeply think and engage in the learning. And so when I think about ways that I would implement that under my leadership, those are the types of experiences that I would hope that our students will have in our classroom, really bringing that learning alive.
Can you repeat it, please? Thank you so much.
One of our core values is building culturally aware critical leaders of things. What will that look like under your leadership?
The first thing I have to do as a leader is understand and acknowledge what various cultures exist within my school. It's my job to always understand, to know the talent within my building, but also know the cultural pieces that make up those various families that I serve, right? So I cannot prepare students to be culturally aware if I'm not culturally aware myself. So my first plan of action is to identify and acknowledge what various cultures exist within my building. The next thing I want to do is make sure that students are aware of those various cultures, and how do we promote cultural tolerance, cultural acceptance, and kindness within our building? How do we really teach scholars to treat one another with honor, no matter what cultural differences they may experience? When it comes to creating leaders who are culturally aware, I think it's great to start having conversations with students about being culturally aware, but my mind always goes to youth activism, right? How do we inspire kids to do things, to do more? How do we teach kids how to use their voice? Because they have opinions, they have questions, and they're great questions, and our children will truly surprise you if you let them. But it is our job to teach them how to use that voice to get what they want, to promote change, and to really help develop this world into what it will become and what they want to see. Because as educators, we are tasked with thinking about what will the world be when these students are our age. I'm not going to say my age. And we have to prepare them to lead, to think, to grow, to love, and to show kindness in that space, even if we may not live to see it. And then creating culturally aware critical thinkers. It is my job to always force my students to question the questions. But I don't want you to just have questions. I want you to learn how to investigate your own questions and come up with answers, and come up with procedures that help you to reach answers that are fair, that are just, that serve you as a person and what you value. And we also have to encourage our students to disrupt spaces and places and people who do not serve them well. And that is what it would look like under my leadership. Thank you.
At this time, I know that you had a
You got it.
One for each or a bonus?
First question. What do you think is most important to campus?
Who's going first? Okay. What's most important to campus safety for me, first and foremost, as a new director coming in to know what the safety plan is, what are our protocols and procedures regarding how we allow people to enter our building, what spaces we allow people to enter, and what the quality of people we allow around our scholars. What are the protocols and procedures surrounding that? But also, what is the protocol and procedure if the security is breached? What are our first line, second line, and last line of defenses? How do I prep and prepare my team, my security team, my culture team, to be on the ready to act if there is an unsafe environment, right? Because at the end of the day, scholars have to feel safe at school, right? If they don't feel safe, they cannot learn, and that's just simply the truth. So it's my job to make sure that every classroom, every common space, and every educator they encounter, they understand and they know that safety is our top priority, and they will always have a safe space in this building.
Yes, to echo that, I think the first place to start is with the policies and the procedures, understanding what already is in place. I think that what also is super important is the form of communication, right? Getting information out to the community, out to parents as soon as possible. There was an incident that we had this year where there was something that had occurred outside of our building where we had to go on lockdown for 4 hours. And so having those experiences, even though none of our students were harmed, we were very intentional about immediately getting that information out to parents. We don't have an immediate harm in our building, but there is something outside that is, currently has us on this lockdown. And so we were quick with sending out those robocalls, sending out an email to our parents, telling them, hey, your scholar is safe, but here's what is happening. I think that piece is super important, having clear communication about the things that are going on. I think that the training and preparation is super important. Having those drills not be happening in quarter 2, but having them happen in quarter 1, where teachers are prepared. They know this is what I need to do in the situation where this happens. And then again, planning, being able to have clear plans in place, clear people that we contact. And so, yeah, that would be my, I think that those things are most important to campus safety.
Okay. The second question, and we'll start with you, Ms. Stewart. What advice would you give to new teachers during their first year?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that. My advice to new teachers would be, you are not going to get it right the first year. You're going to have days where you cry. You're going to have days where you break down, be like, these kids, I don't know. But I think that the other piece of advice is surround yourself with people that are passionate. That is one of the things that has led me to sit in this seat in front of you, to be surrounded by family members, community members, mentors that constantly pour into me, that I can call after a hard day and say, hey, man, I don't know if I'm going to return. And they're like, you going to return back into that building because this is the work that we do. So I really truly believe that finding and surrounding yourself with people that are passionate about this work. Don't go to the person that's like, yeah, girl, that day was hard, or yeah, like, I ain't coming back. Find yourself someone that is motivated, that understands a hard day does not reflect a hard year. And that moment that you have with that student, you can always return. Students deserve a second chance and a second chance after that second chance. And that's just what it is. And so when you come into this work, it is super important to understand that you're not going to get it right and that you should surround yourself with others.
Thank you. Repeat the question, please. What advice would you give to new teachers during their first year?
The best advice that I've ever gotten in this profession was given to me by a woman by the name of Faye Isom. I was struggling as a first year teacher, not with the content, not with instructional delivery, but just connecting, like authentically connecting with my students in the way that they would just totally enjoy coming to my class and want to learn from me. Because of course we all know kids can't learn from someone they don't like. And they always say that they don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? So the best advice I've ever gotten was that kids always respect what's true. whoever you authentically are, as a leader, as an educator, as a man or a woman, be that. Be that in the most healthy way, in a way that supports them, in the way that guides them, even if they're doing work that's tough. You can be upfront about rigor with your students. You know what, guys? We're going to get into a really tough math problem today, but it's okay. I'm going to be here to support you every step of the way. This is step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 and 5 you're going to do on your own. Very simple stuff. But also remind that teacher that they will have support. They will have tough days, but you will not have them alone. You will have support. You will have guidance. And whatever your goals are professionally, remind them that I do have your professional best interest at heart. And I know that it's hard, as coming into any profession, you want to work for people that truly want to see you win, truly want to see you succeed, and truly set you up to be the absolute best you can be at the job. Because the more teachers love what they do, the more they will come back and do it, and the longer they will come back and do it.
And then the final question from this parent is, great question. Ms. Munson, to start with you, what is one of your greatest contributions?
That's hard to say. I can only pick one. Okay. My greatest contribution to the people, to the schools that I've worked in is my time. I've given my time relentlessly. I've given blood, sweat, and tears, long nights. I have clothed students. I have fed students. I've bought groceries for families. I have given my time because it matters. Education does not just happen within the 4 walls of a classroom or a school building. It is every day. You take it home with you. So the greatest contribution that I have given to this profession is my time. I always used to gripe and say, education is the only profession where you got to take care of everybody else's kids, but when it's time to take care of your kids, you got a problem when you take them down. I used to say stuff like that, but I don't regret it because I understand that as an educator, I have 3 biological children, but I truly have 289 children because after the first day, y'all all my kids. Y'all my kids. I'm gonna address you as son, daughter, and any other term of endearment that I see fit in the moment. So my time.
Yes, I think that that was great. Because I'm like thinking yeah, I do have a school, that's gonna be. So yeah, I think that one of the greatest contributions that I bring would be joy. This year, one of our motto this year was bring the joy. And so it really made me reflect on just how difficult this year has been, right? If you are you a parent, a community member, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator in this room, we went through it this year. And it was important to make sure that I am intentional about the joy that I bring to even my colleagues, whether that's a quick joke to lighten the mood, or whether that's in my classroom trying to dance with my kids and do the TikToks with them and keep up with them. But I think that having those opportunities to really see students smile, really get to know who they are inside, what their interests are, and then bringing that into the classroom. Even my colleagues, right? One year at Herzl, we had, or every year we have a social committee, right? And so that has been super impactful to our teachers, making sure that we work out time every month for our staff, our teachers, our faculty to get together and celebrate. This month was hard. So on this Saturday, we're gonna go do whirly ball. We're gonna go do XYZ. We're gonna go bowling, and making sure that we have those things that are implemented into our school so that we can bring the joy. We have to have something, right? Because there are days where this work does get really hard. And so I think that my greatest contribution would definitely be bringing the joy.
Fourth question. This question actually comes from a member of the class of 2022, I think. Actually, this comes from a current staff. By way of oftentimes
that. So what I hear you say is that at the beginning of the school year, we start with many non-negotiables, and then that expectation kind of falls off. I think that a lot of that has to do with temperature checks with our staff, with our students. So being able, yes, at the beginning of the year, I personally believe that it should be a focus on social emotional learning. Really having our teachers tap into what strategies am I going to put in place in my classroom so that I can help my students be better problem solvers, all of those different things. So really honing into that social emotional learning factor at the beginning of the school year is super important. I also think that it is not only important to collect the data, to be able to come back to that, but really be able to use that data when we are coming back with teachers. Okay, quarter two, this is how we're going to reflect on quarter one to see where we are with our discipline, with our disciplinary actions, right? Social emotional learning is the expectation, is the at the beginning of the year, and we've decided to implement all of these different restorative justice practices, creating reflection rooms and all of those things. So being able to set a goal, I think is important, but also being able to come back to that goal with our teachers to say, hey, how are things going? Okay, let's analyze some data. What supports do you need? I think is also significant on being able to follow up with that. I also think that setting high expectations, oftentimes that those expectations fall off because people are like, well, these students can't do that. Yes, they can. You have to hold them accountable. And I think that's one of the things that I love about having restorative practices is because it teaches our children how to hold themselves accountable, and then also teaches us as adults to hold ourselves accountable to having high expectations for our children, because they can very well achieve all of what we set for them.
Just one same question. How do you maintain those non-negotiables throughout the school?
I maintain non-negotiables from day 1 to day 180 by first and foremost reminding teachers that every minute matters. We're coming off of a climate where scholars were given an opportunity to learn from home, learn in the school, be hybrid. But every moment that you have a child in front of you, you have an obligation to teach. You have an obligation to deliver high quality instruction and highly impactful instruction. I always tell my teachers, and they laugh at me, that the kids are going to hate you either way. I want you to first know that kids are going to hate you no matter what. If you let them come in your class and they on their cell phone, and when it's time for graduation, they don't get a phone, Miss Smith ain't teaching me nothing, she ain't tell me to do, she ain't hold me accountable. But if you push them to the limit, to the max, if you really challenge their academic capabilities, they're going to hate you too. She did too much. She always, we do so much work in this class. It's very important as teachers, educators, and leaders that we are comfortable being on the right side of hate. I understand that you don't like what's happening, but my job is to make you better. And all 180 days of school, I expect the teachers to deliver high quality instructions, because again, the student and the parent and the family is our client, and we're not doing children any favors by letting them slide. And whatever I expect, to echo what Ms. Stewart said, we have to inspect. There has to be fidelity checks. There has to be walkthroughs, and it can't just be once a week. It has to be every day, all the time. Teachers, you must know that whether you love me or hate me, I'm coming to your classroom. You're going to get the feedback in 2 hours. So that is how you maintain high expectations throughout the school.
Next question, we'll start with the student. Any principal will have to deal with this week. So this question speaks directly to that. What strategies and practices will you bring to this study related to discipline, and specifically share your thoughts related to suspensions, detentions, and peer reviews?
I always say that one of the best things that I think that I have been able to implement and really carry with me all through the teaching career is understanding, having a true understanding of what a partnership looks like. I think at any meeting, our team is present, whether that is an administrator, whether that is the grade level team of teachers. We're talking about middle school, right? So having the team of teachers there, having the student present, having the parent present, I think is super impactful to changing behavior a lot of the times. I go into this knowing that relationship is the strongest, and we will continue to build on that. I also think as far as strategies, I've talked a lot about this, the restorative piece. Like I said before, students deserve a second chance and a second chance after that second chance. But having restorative justice practices in our classrooms will allow them to take accountability for their actions, because we are giving them a space to reflect on how they have harmed the community, how they have harmed their classmates, how they have harmed themselves, how they have harmed the trajectory of their growth. And so being able to create spaces in our school, right? So something that a strategy that I would love to bring to UCW is creating a room that is a reflection room, having it centered in a space where students can really sit and reflect on who they are. Middle school is the age where they are impressionable still. They are individuals that, even though they are still stepping into their own identities, they still value having those real conversations of, look, man, this is what happened today. This is how you harmed this other person, and this is how this is going to end up. And so you have to be mindful of how you treat others. So being able to incorporate that, being able to incorporate SEL learning specifically. There are a million curriculums out there. I can think of Rethink, I can think of Second Step, and having those curriculums in our classrooms where students know and understand how to regulate their own behavior. As far as suspensions goes, I think that is a great question. I think that some of the work that we had done at Herzl School of Excellence was really having a behavior management system that worked for our school. This was the model that we used. And so with that, we were able to decrease our rate of student suspensions. Our rate decreased from, I believe, 15% to around 4% in 2019. And so being able to have that data to show like our students are being reflective, we have to, again, brings me back to my last question about having those non-negotiables. Our students need to be in our classrooms. We cannot kick them out. Suspension time allows our students to be on the streets, at home, unsupervised, and it's not safe for them, nor are we doing a duty to them by having those kinds of practices.
Same question. Talk about strategies and practices related to discipline, and specifically your feelings related to suspension, detention, and parity.
So first and foremost, I know I said this before, but I always want to start in-house. I want to see what discipline matrix already exists within our network and within our school, and heavily reevaluate, does it serve our students well? What were the upticks in behaviors that we experienced from the year before? And what services can we provide to minimize or eliminate those behaviors from reoccurring? And it's important to consult the data from the previous year, because it tells a story of what behaviors students engaged in, if we go back and look at those reflections, what were the reasons, what were the students experiencing? Because it may have happened with one student or 30 students or 85. However, we can use that to set a tone for the next year. That's the first thing, always starting in-house and reevaluating your own systems. Second, understanding the behavior issues that come with the clientele that we have. What do we know about our students before they even get here? Who are our students that are going to need intense behavior supports? Do we have those supports in-house already? Or do we need to connect the parent or the family with those community partners or those doctors or counselors before the school year even starts, and get them on a behavior plan or some type of appointments with the counselor already on the books before the school year starts? The next thing is understanding what the stressors are for the students. What are the stressors? What are the triggers? And creating safe spaces. It's so important to develop relationships, authentic and real relationships with students, because if a student is having a bad day, they may not want to confide in me, but there may be a staff member on this campus that they feel very comfortable talking to. So having mentors, having check-ins with specific teachers, that alleviated a lot of suspensions. Just having a mentor for that child, a one-on-one and weekly check-ins at the start of the week and at the end of the week, setting goals with children. Also training our staff on restorative justice. Restorative justice is so important. We talk about it all the time, but it does no good for me to just be trained. Every staff member needs to understand what it means to actually restore justice, and students need to know what the process is, what are the procedures, and so do parents. And just as the scholars have to fill out a reflection, this year in my current role, we added the reflection. We required that the reflection be done with the parent. Because when you come back for that, if you get suspended and you come back for that reentry conference, the conversation has to stem from something. It has to be rooted in something that the parent needs to be well-versed and the child needs to be well-versed as well. And I also think that suspension should be reserved for the most egregious behavior, because at the end of the day, my bottom line is to educate children and educate them well. And I simply cannot educate them if they are not here.
Let's get both of the candidates around. Sounds good?
Great.
We're gonna start with me this time. Okay. Hello again. As this evening comes to a close, I want to remind you all that the true measure of an effective school reaches far beyond daily lessons, standardized assessments, and graduations. A truly effective school has to imagine what the world will be and look like in the years to come. And educators, we are tasked with the mission of preparing young people for the world and the communities they will live in and lead to the best of our ability. Because our mission is so great, the vision for this high school has to be even greater. With your support, the University of Chicago Charter High School will establish and maintain a culture of learning with urgency that will embolden our scholars and staff to teach and learn without limits, to truly push scholastic boundaries that will ultimately eradicate academic disparities of any kind, so that all scholars are 100% prepared to excel in the academic or professional arena of their choice. With your partnership, we can truly create a high school that provides an education that children deserve. A high school that helps scholars identify their kind of genius level talent and offers guidance and mentoring as our children turn those talents into marketable skills. With your care, we can uphold a respectful culture that treats people with honor. And with your encouragement, we will relentlessly expose our scholars, every scholar, to every wonderful opportunity this world has to offer, for no other reason than they are qualified, they can, and they will. I welcome more opportunities for us to get to know each other better and to engage in conversations on how we can continue to serve scholars, families, and the community with full fidelity. If you have time to stay and shake my hand, please do. But if not, thank you so much for coming. Peace be with you. Enjoy the rest of your evening and make it home safely. Thank you.
All right, so again, thank you again so much. It really has been an honor to share this space, to be invited, to speak with all of you. So thank you so much. The Woodlawn community is one that is resilient and shows time and time again what it means to persevere. Even though the community has and continues to experience change, one thing remains the same, and that is the importance of pouring into and protecting our youth. Anyone serving in this director position is lucky. I was once told that you know that you found your passion when your job does not feel like work. And I am committed to leading this school and making sure that all students are prepared for high school and college. This is coming from someone that has 4 higher education degrees. My mother has poured into me beyond measures. So thank you, Mom. She's still watching, if she's watching. And I will work with you and continue to value your voice as parents, as community members. And every decision that we make will be together. I know that this journey will not be easy, and I plan to work diligently to serve this community. My vision is that together we can cultivate a safe and inclusive environment for all of our scholars. And we will do that through a focus on social emotional learning, differentiated and rigorous instruction, and collaboration with staff, scholars, and you as community stakeholders. Thank you again, and have a great evening.
So I did say that it didn't come to this question. I will come back to it. Because we do have members of the faculty in the room and watching, I want to make sure we get to this question. So very quickly, in a minute, can you highlight steps we can to create a climate in which teachers will want to perform at their highest? So 1 minute, we'll start with this question.
Creating a climate where teachers want to perform at their highest ability, first and foremost, begins with simply getting to know them, asking them sincerely, what do you love the most about your job? And then creating a schedule that provides protected time for them to do that, right? If you get to experience the highs and the things that you enjoy the most about your profession, you're more prone to do it more. But also it comes with being personable, being approachable, being authentic, and reminding them that I am here to support them, that I am here to work with them, that they do not work for me. Again, we both work for the student, we both work for the family in this community, and it is our job to partner together, because I don't believe that partnerships is just about the community and parents. It is a partnership amongst teachers as well, because we are all professionals. And even though I'm applying for a director role, I now forever and will always consider myself an educator. It is my superpower for sure. And I want teachers to know that I know some principals and some directors will tell you that we really want you to come to work, but I don't want you, I need you. I need you here. I need to partner with you. I need to know what's important to you. I need to know what you love about your job, what you hate about your job, and more importantly, how I can help. And not what help look like to me, but what does it look like to you?
So I think that being able to create a culture and climate that allows our faculty to be at their highest ability, I think it first starts with highlighting strength. Every teacher coming into our building has a strength. What is that strength? Being able to say that. A lot of the times we get caught up in what needs to be done better, right? If we want our teachers to perform at their highest ability, we need to be able to make sure that we are having conversations to let them know how they are valued in our community. That's number one. I also think that being intentional about coaching, our teachers should have a voice in their goal setting for the year. That is what motivates them intrinsically to improve. If we come to the table with what we think they should be working on, a lot of the times that doesn't work. But if we can meet halfway, where the teacher also has input to say, this is where I feel like I need to grow professionally, my job as a director then would be able to meet them with the supports and the resources that they will need to be successful. Goal set, having them a part of that goal setting conversation. I also think being transparent and having spaces where our teachers can really reflect, right? It's not always about the feedback, but also giving them time to reflect about the educator that they want to be, the students that they have, and giving them a space to really intrinsically have that motivation. I think is super important. I also think to Ms. Monson's piece about being authentic. I believe that I'm a very real person. I'm very authentic. I don't try and spice things up. We are all humans. We will all make mistakes. And I think that that is important as a leader to express that, but also continue to set high expectations for all of our teachers with coming back to the table with our goals.
Will you provide director resources about next steps in the process?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm between you and your dinner, so I'll keep this very short. Again, my name is Gina. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the third school. First, I just want to say I'm going to talk about the next steps, but I want to talk about the steps that these two very talented individuals took to get here. So there were many resumes submitted. Those resumes were reviewed. These two individuals had multiple interviews with multiple stakeholders. They both had written assignments that they had to do in 24 or 48 hours, and they both did very well. And they also had to come into the Woodlawn campus and do classroom observations with our CEO and with our head of campus. So to get here tonight, they've already done a lot. And also they have interviews with our board of directors this morning. So they didn't just wake up at noon. They've been working all day. So what comes next? First off, we really want to hear from you. What did you think after this forum? Those of you who are staff members, please email or talk to your directors, and our directors are, a lot of them are right back here in the hall, or email our CEO, Tanika Island-Childress, and just tell her, this is what I like, these are the questions I still have, here's what I think, because this forum is important to getting people's views. And those of you on in YouTube land, please do the same. Email Tanika or any director, or email me. We want to hear your views. We will be taking all those things into account. The group that makes the final decision is the board of directors for our charter school. That's what charter schools are. We have a board, and that board is scheduled to meet on June 14th. And that's Tuesday night at 5 o'clock. I also want to say that the talented professionals submitted many references, spent a lot of my weekend calling those references, and those references also are going into the pot to make the final decision. So there's a lot of information going in, but we anticipate decisions by the board on the night of June 14th. Sometimes things take longer, and there's something has to be scheduled, but that's what we're anticipating right now. So, did I miss anything, Todd? All right. I want to say thank you. Now that I know have not listened to this, thank you so much for your time. It is really wonderful to see so many of you here this evening. And you were very great audience, very engaged and listening. And I know that our two finalists appreciate it how much. Thank you again.
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge someone. There's a woman in the room by Janetta Jackson, and Miss Janetta Jackson is my 4th grade teacher, and she's sitting next to my mom. And she came here tonight, and I just want to tell, we are still friends. We weren't friends in 4th grade, we were not. And she was the only teacher my mom would let spank me, and it paid off. And I just want to tell her, thank you so much for coming here to be here